All right, I think we've got last individual signing up there. I'll go ahead and get started. And what I'll do today is I'll go over the full notice of the proposed rule changes and then give some additional feedback here as I go through based on some of the hearing input we've got already, just to maybe provide some more clarification to give you the opportunity there to decide whether or not you need to speak on that topic. So I will start out if you have the rules with you, but we'll just start in order from the pages through the Article 99-01.3. And page number 1, the first topic is related to definitions, and it's to provide definitions of license and permit as they apply to gaming. The remaining sections of 9901.3-01 were renumbered accordingly. Okay, on to page 2. Section, let's see. Page 2, it was amended to clarify that electronic pull tabs may not be conducted in temporary sites such as fairgrounds, special event sites, or any site that is not open for 20 consecutive calendar days of 1 quarter. This was the initial language to put in there to try and clarify what was already there with the temporary sites, but or to more clearly identify what temporary sites were. And we did get some feedback there that I do know we're probably going to have to revisit that language a little bit to not negatively impact any actual sites, gaming sites that are open for 5 or 6 days out of the week. So we do realize that there's probably some revision of that'll have to take place. Next section, 99-01.3-01-04 related to license. This section is amended to clarify the Attorney General's ability related to license action. So subsection 3 is amended to clarify that any subsequent gaming manager or independent audit person must demonstrate to the Attorney General that they are capable of properly managing and controlling the games they conduct. Possible actions if organizations or individuals are not capable of conducting gaming are included. So there has been a little bit of feedback there, and really I think the idea of this one is to ensure that everybody that is conducting gaming activity for the organizations are capable or proficient in doing so. The next section related to permits, and that takes us to page 4. Subsection 2. Okay, subsection 2 is amended to change the primary prize amount under a permit from $8,000 to $15,000, and the total prizes of all games may not exceed $50,000 per year. This change was to align with legislative changes in 5306.1-03 that came about in House Bill 1192. Subsection 8 is amended to clarify that an alcoholic beverage establishment may not advertise gaming. Next bullet here, subsection 8 is amended to clarify an alcoholic beverage establishment may not advertise gaming. So we do realize there's probably a significant comment on the advertising piece, and I guess I'll generally give some input here on the front end about the changes related to advertising, as well as there's some adult uniform discussion as well that'll be had. The reason being there is we are looking for avenues to be able to head off any, for lack of better terms, backdoor deals that occur between organizations and sites, and that's one of the areas that we're looking at correcting there to try and help us better regulate one of those areas that we hear from nearly daily about sites and the competition for sites. So we're definitely open to feedback there and how we can best, as an industry and as regulators, come to some sort of language that would help us to better do that, to ensure there's integrity across the gaming industry in North Dakota. Okay, next will be on pages 6 and 7. We have section 99-01.3-02-01, and there's several changes here that are really kind of going to be identified throughout rule. So the first one is subsection 3 is amended to change the definition of bar to alcoholic beverage establishment and align with revisions to 53-06.1-01 of the Century Code from Senate Bill 2334. The term bar has been amended throughout rules to the term alcoholic beverage establishment. So I'm mentioning that here, but you will see anytime that bar was used in rule, there's lots of changes through there, and that's just changing that term alone. Similarly, subsection 4 is amended to change bar employee to alcoholic beverage establishment employee, and the same thing applies there. It's a swap of those words from bar employee to alcoholic beverage establishment employee. Subdivision E of subsection 9 is revised to change bar to alcoholic beverage establishment and to incorporate language to the definition of electronic pull tab cash profit related to credit ticket voucher redemption kiosks. And then subsection 13 in definitions is amended to add credit ticket voucher redemption kiosk, that's a mouthful, to definitions. And the credit ticket voucher redemption kiosk language is being added throughout rules to formalize a pilot project initiated by the State Gaming Commission, and rules regarding credit ticket voucher kiosks are also amended in the following sections. And I'll say several sections throughout the language relate to that kiosk. And I know that a lot of folks in the room that are either using those or have interest in those will have probably gone through these well and provide input there. So this is essentially bringing in the new regulation regarding the kiosks that are available now. Okay, subsection 18 is amended to clarify the definition of organization as a group that meets the requirements to hold a gaming license. Okay, next we move into records checks, and that would be on page 11. And subdivision C of subsection 4 of this section is amended to add an employee who adds currency and removes credit ticket vouchers from a kiosk that they must have records check. Again, some early feedback that we've heard there regarding records checks is that whether it be here or further on, there was some concern that the requirement of records checks for volunteers may be an undue burden for some organizations that might use a large number of volunteers for a raffle, 50-50, whatever that may be. So we understand that there'd be some feedback coming there likely, and recognize that there could be some amended language coming from that. Okay, let's see. All right, section on page 12, section 9901.3-0204, equipment acquisitions and use. Subdivision D of section 1 clarifies who can design and construct a 21 table, paddle wheel table, poker table, or jar bar. I believe it read carpenter in there before, and really as long as it meets those additional requirements that are in law of those types of equipment, anybody that has the ability to construct that can do that. So. All right, section 9901.3-0205, lessor and organization. Subsection 1 is amended to clarify who may conduct games at a site. And section 3 is amended to clarify a lessor's interference or attempting to influence an organization. that again kind of goes back to the previous discussion, looking for ways for us to more cleanly regulate that relationship that you do have between sites and organizations. Section 4 is amended to add electronic pull tabs can be accessed by an organization employee who works for an alcoholic beverage establishment under certain circumstances. Section 7 is amended to clarify advertising may only be done by a licensed organization. And Section 8 is added to clarify the Attorney General's ability to suspend a site violation for this rule. It was that suspension language was just moved from a higher point in the section and moved down to make it it originally appeared as it applied just for that line or that subsection, but to ensure that it does apply to the whole section. Okay, page 16, rental agreement. The subsection 9 related to advertising by a lessor was removed. And again, you're gonna find several areas throughout here regarding that advertising component have been revised, but it does go back to my previous comments as far as to reasoning. Okay, persons restricted from playing games on page 20. Subsections 1 and 3 are amended to add electronic pull tab devices to the list of restricted games or devices. Page 21. Section 9903.1, training requirements and acknowledgement of gaming laws and rules. So it does add training requirements is added in this section title, and then subsections 2 and 3 were added to clarify training requirements for organizations, gaming managers, and gaming auditors. Page 22, denial, suspension, or revocation of a license. Subsection A of section 1 replaces the term applicant with those who could be part of the application process. Gaming account, page 26. Subsection 1 is is amended by adding gaming to provide clarification. And there it talks about gaming expenses or counts, and it was previously listed just as expenses. This does align with the idea that you're limited up to 60% for gaming expenses, and then the remainder would go to net proceeds. So that's to align with that line of wording in other areas. So this is just to further clarify what expenses we're talking about there. Subsection 2 is amended to clarify how interest earned or other income must be reported on a gaming tax return. Subsection 3 is amended to address charity donations from a credit ticket voucher redemption kiosk may be deposited into the gaming account. Section 9901.3-0303 related to trust account. Subsection 1 adds fees for ordering checks as an item that must be reported as an adjustment to the trust account on the state tax return. And page 27, 9901.3-0304, restrictions and requirements. See, subsections 3 and 4 were removed to clarify advertising again, and section 12 was added to clarify alternate record keeping systems other than the system from the Attorney General. And you're going to see several areas throughout the rules that changes that language. That's to be less restrictive in what's actually prescribed in the use of record keeping systems. So you're able to use those alternate systems that are approved by the Attorney General. Section 19 was added to clarify where prize winning transfer would go in the event of a winner player being deceased before distribution. So I suppose you could see that in a raffle or other areas, but probably most primarily in a raffle. Just clarifies that. Section 99-01.3-0306, gross proceeds, IOUs, documenting cash, and chip banks is amended as follows. Section 2 was amended to clarify starting and ending cash on hand documentation for sports pools and a runner cash reserve bank used for electronic pull tabs and kiosks. Next section on page 37, bank deposit and audit. Subsection 2 adds that game type must be referred on a deposit slip for sports pools, raffle boards, and Calcutta boards. Subsection 7 adds that the audit person may not have signatory authority or electronic access to the gaming account and what is required when gaming activity is audited. Section 9901.30403, conduct of play or conduct and play. Subsection E of subdivision E of subsection 1 was amended to remove punishable by a $5,000 fine or 5 years in jail. This statement was also removed from other areas of the rules. This is not consistent with administrative rules, and Class C is already designated. So in the rules, it says you might be found or found guilty of a Class C felony. Punishment is actually outlined in Century Code for Class C felonies. Subsection 24 on page 48 clarifies what unpeakable is. That term has been changed there. Subsection 28 is amended to remove a recording requirement from progressive bingo, and the recording requirement is added in subsection F of subdivision F of subsection 29. Section 9901.304 related to tickets. That's subsection 2 is amended to include voided tickets as an item required in daily records. Section 9901.30408 in record keeping. Subdivision I of subsection L was removed as a result in previous changes to 9901.30403 relating to documenting the progressive bingo, and is now included in the requirement of a written bingo program under subdivision H. The new subdivision I subsection L of subsection 1, added voided tickets to the 6-month retention period. Right. Relating to raffles, section 9901.30501. It does remove that punishment language that I described previously. Subsections 1 and 5 were amended to move the conduct of a raffle from subsection 5 to subsection 1. And subsection 3 was amended to clarify raffle boards. And let's see, subsection, we're on to tickets now, excuse me. All right, section 9901.3-0502 related to tickets. Subsection 2 was amended to clarify that an organization may not require raffle tickets to be sold in exchange for a discount or payment for youth athletic programs. And it sounds like that does occur quite a bit. We do get quite a few calls that, my sports team or my school is requiring me to do this in replacement of fees to sell raffle tickets. So that is the clarification there. Subsection 3 was amended to clarify that only one player's name may be on a raffle ticket stub. And the idea there is, if you have a husband and wife or friends that both put their name on there can only be one winner. And we did get some feedback on that as well. And some of the clarification on the feedback was apparently it's common for people to use mailing labels that might have a husband and wife or other family members on one label. So we do realize that there might be some additional revision that would need to be made to clarify that. That certainly was not the intention. The intention is to clarify who the actual winner of the raffle is. So subsections 4 and 13 are amended to increase the prize amount indicated on a ticket to $15,000 to align with changes in 5306.1-03 made by the legislature in House Bill 1192. Double roll tickets on page 67. Subsection 4 was amended to include voided tickets as an item required as part of daily records. Record keeping. Subsection 3 is amended to clarify requirements for raffles using double roll tickets. Section 9901.3-0602, conduct and play. Subsection 9 is amended to include secondary winner verification for redeeming pull tabs. Page 83, record keeping. Subsection 5 is amended to update flare requirements. And see, section 99-01.306.1-02, use and requirements of an organization. And amendment is amended as follows. Subsection 1 is amended to clarify temporary site locations in designated areas of electronic pull tab devices, and we briefly described that earlier. Subsection A removes the requirement to use the Attorney General's office record keeping system. Again, you'll see that multiple times. Subsection 9 is amended to clarify electronic pull tab device site interim visits and recording of cash loss. Subdivision D of subsection 16 is amended to clarify quarter close. Subdivision F of subsection 16 is amended to clarify independent audit person duties. Okay, record keeping. Subsection 3 is amended to clarify loss and cumulative cash profit reconciling to the amount reported on the gaming tax return. Subsection 5 is added to establish requirements for a kiosk cash bank. Subsection 7 is amended to clarify credit redemption, register recording, and subsection 9 is amended to clarify closed game summary reports and their retention. Sports pools. Establishes that a sports pool must be for professional sport only, and that's on page 96, section 9903.10701. Page 104, section 9901.30804 regarding video surveillance systems for 21. And subdivision C of subsection 1 is amended to clarify the view and image of the video camera. Subsection 7 is amended to remove the requirement of needing approval before using an alternate system from the Attorney General's record keeping system. Page 118, dealing mistakes under section 9901.30812. Removes unless an organization has an alternative written policy. And some of the feedback we've gotten there and internally questions the need for this. And I guess what we'd be curious if anybody actually has a practice of doing that. And if so, please let us know and then we can take that in consideration. So section 9901.3-0814, Dropbox cash count. Subsection 2 is amended to clarify count team gaming conduct and activity restrictions if both count team members are also gaming employees and dealers. Section 9901.3010816, record keeping, is amended to include the address of each player in each day's activity for tournaments. Poker. Let's see, the tournament fees or buy-in for poker is increased from $300 to $1,500. And just one comment on this area here. There's been quite a bit of lead up to this topic and input that we've received both before and during the open comment period. It's been looked at preliminarily from a legal standpoint, whether this is administrative rules change or not. It can't be argued that it isn't an administrative rules change, but one thing to note here from our point of view, we do feel that this is it is an expansion into gaming, and if you're at all interested in the topic, please take a look at it and provide any discussion you may have there. But I'll move on from that one, but just to kind of explain there that that was put in actually at the request of the Gaming Commission on the front end. That was asked of us to put that in there. Tournaments, section 9901.3-0905. Subdivision D of subsection 1 is amended to clarify that optional dealer tip fees may not be part of the fees on the schedule. Again, it needs to be clear there for a poker tournament that that tip fees are optional. They're not part of the tournament buy-in. So Record keeping is amended as follows under 9901.31107. And okay, let's see. Bear with me here a second. Okay, subsection F of subdivision F of subsection 1 is amended to clarify that the invoice documenting the cost and description of merchandise prize identifies the gaming stamp number each prize was awarded with. Section 9901.3-1205 under record keeping. Subsection 2 is amended to remove the flare requirement that one master flare for a game must be retained. Subsection 4 is amended to include organization site name and quarter to a credit redemption register. Subsection 8 is amended to clarify short loss language writing changes only. And subsection 9 is amended to clarify requirements of an access log. Let's see, section 9901.3, 12.1-02, use and requirements of an organization is amended as follows, and subsection 6 removes the requirement to have approval from the Attorney General, again, to use an alternate record keeping system. Record keeping under 9901.3-12.1-05, subsection 5 is amended to clarify requirements of a credit redemption voucher. Subsection 10 is amended to clarify requirements of an access log. Okay, and the next section is related to eligible use. And I'll go through each of these individually here. Subsection 1 is amended to provide clarification of 53-06.1-11.1, which allows net proceeds to be used for real property if the real property is used exclusively for an eligible use by a fraternal and veterans organization. And again, that's just to clarify that real property language and tie it back to North Dakota Century Code and what real property is as it was intended and defined in 53-06.1-11.1. So we have changed some of our practice there and how we process any acquisition, maintenance, those sorts of net proceeds disbursements by veterans or fraternal organizations. Subsection 3 clarifies the use of net proceeds by convention and visitors bureaus. Subsection F of subdivision F of subsection 4 is amended to clarify the disbursement of net proceeds to youth activities, schools, or booster clubs versus directly to individuals. It does provide some clarification there. Subdivision G of subsection 4 is amended to clarify the disbursement of net proceeds to adult amateur athletics. And that ties back to my early discussion there. Subdivision A of subsection 5 is amended to clarify payments to providers of services versus directly to individuals and the requirement for documentation of payment for past items. So really this ties into the donations and when you're donating to groups or individuals. One thing that from an audit perspective and from an organization perspective, we really ask that you do track those, whether you're donating and you need to follow up with the actual recipient to ensure that the funds are being used for net proceeds. And there's been some discussion lately that we've received from different areas on whether it was necessary to track that. And I can definitely say that from a record keeping standpoint, yes, you do need to know where your net proceeds are going. And otherwise it makes it inauditable and then we have issues. So let's see, the next is subdivision D of subsection 5 is added to include services for addiction. Subdivisions F and G of subsection 5 were amended for formatting and grammar. Subdivision I of subsection 5 was added to include crime prevention, fire protection and prevention, and public safety. Subdivision J of subsection 5 was added to include relief, improvement, and advancement of physical and mental conditions, care and medical treatment, and health and welfare of injured or disabled veterans. And subdivision K of subsection 5 was added to include the use of net proceeds to support the Veterans Post-War Fund as a veterans organization defined under 53-06.1-01. And funds will be used for homeless veteran services to prevent and eliminate veteran homelessness. So this addition is a result of changes to North Dakota Century Code 37-14-14 through House Bill 1504 in this last session. Subsection 9 was amended to clarify payment of these items similar to subdivision A of section 5. And again, that goes back to the payment to individuals and tracking of those payments. Subdivision 12 was added to clarify the use of net proceeds for statewide veterans organization program expenses. Subsection 13 was added to clarify the use of net proceeds as defined in chapter 47-01 for real property that is used exclusively for an eligible use by an organization. And again, there's what you have there for real property for a non-fraternal or non-veterans organization. That real property must be used for and exclusively for an eligible use, and that's clarifying that. Subsection 14 was added to clarify the use of net proceeds as defined in chapter 4701 for real property used by licensed and veterans or fraternal organizations. And subsection 15 was added to clarify the use of up to 20% of the veterans organization's net proceeds for the cost of food and beverages created in 53-06.1-11.1 through Senate Bill 2288. And that's been in process now we're going into our second quarter on that. And things seem to be going pretty well. We've had, a couple hiccups along the way, which have been expected, but that transition seems to be going quite well. So appreciate everybody's help on that. Restrictions and requirements under section 9901.3-1502. Subsection 14 is amended to clarify distributors reporting of stamped games. Section 9901.3-1509. State gaming stamp and return of gaming equipment is amended as follows. Subsection 3 is amended to clarify distributor recording requirements of gaming stamps due to unpaid sales invoice and voided gaming stamp filing process. Record keeping, 9901.3-15-10. Subdivision E of subsection 2 is amended to clarify that a distributor's sales invoice must include the date the deal was downloaded for active play for an electronic deal of pull tabs. And subsection 3 is amended to keep sales invoice requirements due to an updated filing process. Okay, just about there, a couple more. Manufacturing specifications under section 9901.3-1609.6. Subdivision F of subsection 12 is amended to remove the requirement of state gaming stamp number assigned to the distributor for each deal needing to be made available prior to the opening of the deal for distribution by the manufacturer. Subdivision B of subsection 22 is amended to add ideal prizes per deal back into the required items on a deal in play report for electronic pull tabs. And then subdivision C of subsection 22 is amended to remove the requirement of an independent audit person of the organization is required to reconcile the totals for all games and cost per play information from the monthly interim report to the game summary report for all games conducted at the site at the end of the first and second months of a quarter. This is not needed in the manufacturer chapter as it's organization requirement and included in the electronic pull tab chapter. Subdivision D of subsection 22 is amended to clarify what is required on summary section of an electronic poll tab, closed summary report. Subsection 24 is amended to add the report viewing must have the capability to search by an organization's state gaming license number, and the site's name where the manufacturer's poll tab activity is conducted must be listed as a drop-down option, which can be selected to obtain reports to subsection 22 of section 99-01.3-16-09.6. This is to standardize each electronic poll tab manufacturer's portal to make finding ETAB reports easier. One comment there, I don't believe there are any manufacturers in the room, but we work with them daily on new game types and things like that, and just they're a good group to work with, your manufacturers, and they're very open to making things easier for us to on a regulatory from a regulatory standpoint. So subsection 39 is amended to add subdivisions G and H, which add requirements of what information must be recorded and transmitted from a printed credit ticket voucher. With that, that is, I believe, all of the rule changes. Pass it off to Mr. Chairman.
Well, thanks, Aaron. That was a lot, so thank you. Can we get the sign-up sheets to see who can go next? We will open the public comment part now. We'll see who is first on the, who's the first one to sign up? Not you, Senator. Looks like we're having, wow.
Federal Judicial Office.
Federal Judicial Office? And then please state your name and address and organization you're representing if you are any.
Good day to you. Today is February 18th, 2026. We are here at the state of North Dakota with our Gaming Commission and as well as everyone here today. I am a Supreme Court Federal Judicial Administrative Law of office, federal office. That's everything here in the state of North Dakota and state of South Dakota, as well as everything with our Office of Management and Budget Office. I'm a legal federal regulator. My federal employment is until 2032. My name is Marita Lee Fiddler, and this is very nice. I am so thankful for the Attorney General, as well as everything of business. And that's everything with our casinos, as well as everything here, what we have of the total dollars with our budget. The Supreme Court's Office of Management and Budget Office here at the state capitol. However, my address is 600 East Boulevard here with the Office of Management and Budget Office. I also have the cost that's of our federal lands, as well as property and U.S. official businesses with my federal registrar. That's legal documentation. So everything that's needed just to be very important. This is very wonderful. I meant wonderful to me because I like to see the accurate numbers. I follow everything accordingly in every place, wherever there's, pull tabs, or whether we have, anything at the American Legion, or we have at any place of business with our gaming, at the bingo, Dakota Skies, or at the Perry Nights, or, wherever it is, as well as our pull tabs. I've had situations. I'm glad to be here today. Our Dakota Skies, I had to check on the monitors. Okay. I have every business and place of business that's underneath the city and the county, as well as the state of North Dakota. That's legal documentation, with everything on my OMB number with the Supreme Court's Office of Management Budget Office. I had went to the Dakota Skies Bingo. Now we've had the payouts. If we can get those payouts, looked at, because the manufacturing company. Okay, we have a payout. We have 3 different payouts for every level 1, level 2, level 3. Now the pull tabs, however, as well, there was just I would like to check and see, because we have a computer. It's a computer that makes every pull tab. So I know that. But I, however, went down there, and because I've had so many, that have not been paid the exact total cost from the manufacturing company with the level 1, level 2, level 3, the machines at the Dakota Skies. This is just one place. But the payouts need to be rewritten on the paperwork that I have at that place. I also went to the gas stations where there was lottery tickets. Now there was employees, just as government employees for the business. Now I've had workers as employees that were either working late during the evening times. There was going through all the tickets, scratching off, these dollars that weren't in our budget.
Can I ask you a question? Which rule are you looking at discussing, or a change in the rules? Could we?
Oh, no, all these rules are very accurate, sir.
Okay, so
These are what we have to imply in every place.
okay, so do you want to provide any testimony about any of the rules, or do you have any suggestions for different rule changes, or no?
I do not argue anything about any change of rules. I would like to see through, because I have the Perry Nights Casino, as well as everything that was brought to me, because of the budget. Now, I would keep the 15,000, as well as the 300,000 for every business, management, and every employee with the Gaming Commission. I also, however, everything with our casino, I even had the casino machines with the U.S. Treasury. Everything comes here now with me. My name's Marita Lee Fiddler. So I
Sure.
like to check and see, because I've had the jurisdiction with even the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, the tribal representatives. I'm a federal executive.
Sure.
That's also my land with the place of business, with the business license, as well as a federal registrar, and as well as everything under NARA, the National Archives. It's under archives with property or business. So regardless of any name that's on there, it still has the state, the city and county here of the whole entire state of North Dakota, sir. So
Well, I think for this purposes, we're really trying to go through the administrative rules and see if you have any suggested changes, or anything we're suggesting to change. If you have any comments on those, that's what we're here for today.
okay, everything I would like to apply and make sure that all this is done as it is seen in every workplace, in every place, okay? So that's what I would agree to, because we've had, like I said, I do the figures. I do a lot of figures as well as our US Treasury, so I know I take care of the budget too. So I want to make sure that when people are spending their dollars, they get their dollar as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Next is Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. If I could have you refer to the document I distributed to you folks. Top of it says North Dakota Gaming Advisory Council.
Bill, just to clarify, name.
Bill
Ed.
Kalanick, on behalf of the North Dakota Gaming Advisory Council, an informal group that we put together to aggregate comments on these rules to hopefully make it easier for the commission to kind of get through what some of the concerns are out there. Like I said, not official. We're comprised of folks from both of the trade organizations, the North Dakota Gaming Alliance, as well as the Charitable Gaming Association of North Dakota. Like I said, in an effort to be more efficient.
Bill.
Yep. I'll just start going through the issues as presented there. Immediately at the top of the page, on page 1, site authorization, which is referred to on page 2 of the administrative rules. And the 20 consecutive days, which is already addressed by the director, I think needs some tweaking there. Does not accommodate businesses that may be closed a day, like say Monday or Sunday or Monday. Could create some issues for those establishments. Just need some clarification there. Page 3 on licensing, the reference to capable. Just some questions about that with the potential ambiguity of what capable means. There were going to be some parameters put around that. A lot of uncertainty just with regard to that word. Going to permits on page 5, the number 8 there is changed to a lesser, or would allow a lesser to advertise gaming at its own expense. Whereas later sections place a prohibition on that. We just request that those sections be harmonized if changes are going to be made. Page 16 has additional language with regard to advertising. Our suggestion in this case on page 5 that the change in the language be struck and then maybe solely referenced on in the other section. Moving to the definition section, which is page 8 of the rules. One suggestion within the language regarding kiosks was there is an aspect to the kiosk subject where charity donations are made are included as part of the options when redeeming at a kiosk, that they may donate directly to the charity. No reference to that charity donation piece is made here. Wondering if that shouldn't be referenced, because some of those machines are set up that way or can be set up that way. Also, with regard to we suggest allowing for multi-vendor redemption kiosks. There's no reference to multiple manufacturers being included on the same kiosk machine, because just from a square footage perspective, if a different kiosk is needed for every type or every vendor, it eats up space in a facility. More cash has to be kept on hand. It's also a security concern to some degree there. And we do have some suggested language for you to consider included on the form. Moving to the restrictions, our next area of concern, restrictions on page 14. There is the reference that any incidents affecting security must be reported next business day. We suggest within that language a change be made. Currently it says security or integrity. Security and integrity was just a suggestion that might make it more clear as to what incidents require reporting. And I discussed that with the director as noted on my form. With regard to lessors and organization restrictions, page 16 of the administrative rules. Number 6 indicates that a lesser may advertise gaming. Number 7 says a bar may not advertise charitable gaming. Want to make sure we're clear as far as the meaning there. We do include some proposed replacement language below. Additionally, with regard to the penalties that could be applied in that situation where a charity or a lessor violates the advertising piece, we feel that the penalty being placed on the gaming organization is probably inappropriate there when they're not the ones actually breaking the rules. So to consider that the fine be placed on the lesser, the establishment, not necessarily the charity who was not involved in maybe making that decision. Once again, we do have some suggested language there. With regard to lesser and organization restrictions on page 15, there is the 3B, which says a lesser may recommend an eligible use. If the lesser violates this rule, the Attorney General may suspend any and all games at the site for up to 6 months. You know, once again, we suggest some language there. However, sorry, I'm reading at the same time I'm trying to think through this. Lesser may recommend an eligible use, and that the lesser may not use any coercive or intimidating tactics in order to allow for that. And they must fill out the actual request form for donation from the organization if they're going to suggest a charitable use for gaming revenue. With regard to accounting rules, there was on page 26, I'm jumping to, there's wording confusion around gaming usage, the word gaming used there. Donation language for kiosks appears here, but not in the definitions. So we have some questions about that and if that could be clarified. Additionally, moving to page 29, records, we're requesting that potentially the office consider ink or digital with a digital attestation process for computerized spreadsheets, things of that nature. We've gone electronic with almost all state forms. We're still kind of hanging on to some paper forms here and would like to see things moved along in that direction if there's accommodation that could be made for that. Jumping ahead to page 63 of the rules regarding raffles, the subject that was discussed by the director indicating there were one name on a ticket. Like he referenced, that was one example that I'd heard from a number of people that around the state, people use address labels when they buy a book of tickets, and it may list husband and wife, maybe some clarification that the first name listed should be recognized as a winner as opposed to only one be allowed, because it's become very common practice. I think organizations would have to pull back on a lot of prizes. I think might create an issue. Page 67, this is one thing I got some clarification on from the director. The way it was worded, it was assumed that there was a contradiction there that a prize could be claimed before a drawing, which obviously can't happen until you have a drawing. In actuality, the way the language reads is intended to read would be that in a redemption period must be established before the date of a drawing, not the drawing occurred before the date of the drawing. So just to clarify, we had a question about that. I think that's been cleared up. With regard to pull tabs and boards, page 81, it indicates secondary winner verification. That's something that's not available from all manufacturers from what I understand. So wondering if some accommodation could be made there. Page 85, regarding electronic pull tabs. Once again, we go back to allowing charitable donation option on kiosks. Jumping ahead to 87, page 87. This has to do with keys and who has access to machines. We're suggesting that they allow service service technician to hold keys for malfunction events. Concern there is that distributor access is, we must ensure distributor access is limited. Kiosk keys remain with an organization for security reasons. And then additionally, remove by end of quarter, because a lot of these charities would like to operate up through the end of the quarter before they make some changes and can maximize their revenue through the end of the quarter that way. With regard to, looks like I forgot a page number here, 9901.0303-06, 1 through 3, alcoholic establishments. Bar employees may not summarize or audit e-tabs. The concern there is that hurts rural areas. We have situations where bar employees, when off the clock, not serving alcohol in the bar, work for charities. Might create a conflict there with auditing of summarizing and auditing e-tabs. We're asking that maybe that prohibition be removed because it affects lots of charities, especially smaller charities working in the rural areas. Moving along, page 102, 21 or blackjack. There's a requirements with regard to chips that's being asked for there. My understanding is that most manufacturers do not manufacture chips in the way that they're described in that in those references. No edge spots, charity name on both sides. Those could increase costs for charities having to order special chips, and there's been a lot of consolidation within the industry that produces those chips, and you have limited options when ordering. With regard to dealer mistakes, page 118, our suggestion was that we keep the current wording. Unless, right now, you're still allowed to have a policy that deviates from the AG's policy as long as you have written policy with regard to each dealing mistake listed. Industry thought that that was an important accommodation to have. With regard to the poker limit, the buy-in limit on page 124, industry supported that. Just for your information. With regard to, that's what everybody told me. They just say they supported it. Yeah, just FYI. I went through this thing so many times and read through so much, and I'm reading through it going, I wish I'd have wrote this differently.
Bill, I have a question on that. Do you know the reason why they're increasing it from $300 to $1,500? Is that?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner McDaniel, guess I'm not privy to that. It sounded like that was kind of generated from the commission itself, from what the director said. Not something I was involved in promoting, or, when we saw it, we just took poll and said, well, we're okay with it.
Okay.
Not that we were driving that in any way.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Page 172, eligible uses. This we considered kind of a major policy area. There's some language regarding CVBs designated as the only entities designated to receive funds. This was also dealt with as a legislative issue last session and seems to deviate from what maybe the legislature wanted last session. So we're humbly requesting that maybe that be put off because it was something considered by the 2025 legislature and might get visited again. With regard to eligibility as well on page 173, requesting kind of a new change, something that wasn't changed. On 4F, currently reads that youth, community, and athletic activities open to all youth less than 18 years of age. I'm suggesting some change in the language there, not to specify the age, especially with youth activities. There are a lot of high school kids who are 18, sometimes 19, that are involved in some of these programs, and it could create some complications there if we wanted to go down that road. I'm a high school coach and I'm involved in youth sports as well. You know, got kids who are 18 and it's the beginning of their senior year. So when they're involved in some of these programs, to be able to receive benefits from those programs, whatever they may be, I think is important. Adult amateur athletics, page 173 is an eligible use. You know, I understand we understand the kind of the meaning behind it, what somewhat of the intent was. We do think that the not allowing the use of funds for construction or maintenance of sports complexes that aren't strictly for youth is problematic because so many of our facilities statewide are used by adults and kids. There's really no way to draw a line and say these are exclusively for kids, and if mom comes along, now it's not eligible. So wondering if some clarification could be made there along the lines of the language suggested. And then with regard to let's see, the sponsorship of teams, which is referenced in that section as well. You know, we advise that, or we ask that the language be kept the same. I think what may happen with the draft language, if you're limiting the eligible use of trust funds, those organizations that are, let's just, for lack of a better word, use wealthy on the non-gaming side, could still continue to sponsor teams and things of that nature, and it could create kind of a somewhat of an unfair advantage to larger organizations like that over smaller organizations who can't afford to sponsor teams. I think that's an unintended consequence of maybe making that change. So although I do think there is some value to it from an organizational standpoint, but I think it's limited, and I believe that, or at least the group believes, that we, you know, like to kind of do status quo on that. Then I guess we suggest keeping the existing language and removing the requirement that the charity name be listed on jerseys.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Why would you want to remove the requirement of uniforms not to include the charity's name when the charity is sponsoring the team?
I just think, Mr. Chair, Commissioner McDaniel, I'm trying to get back into legislative mode. I think with regard to that, I think we want the option. I'm admittedly, just from a personal standpoint, having worked with the kids charity, do we always want the name on bar league dart uniforms and kind of having that option instead of requiring it to be on there? If it's, I understand there's an advertising component to it. And having previously been asked to sponsor a number of teams, there's, I guess, from my opinion, personal opinion, I'm not talking from the group, there's being able to pick and choose where you want your advertising, even if you're committing to supporting a team. I think it's just an option that people would like, just from an optic standpoint in the public. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Next, we have Karen.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? All right. My name is Karen Briner. I'm speaking on behalf of myself today. And my first section is the outside service provider restriction, 99-01.3-02-11. Starts on page 21, but actually the bulk of the rule is on page 22. I struggle with this rule, and I don't have really a lot of solid changes, but I would like you to hear me out. I do understand this section. I do understand that charities need the option to have an outside service provider help with some of these that are included in here. Where I struggle with is an outside service provider that does everything for the charity. So that an outside service provider appears to be doing everything and then cutting a check for the 40% to the charity. So that's where I struggle with. I don't want a charity to lose out on using bookkeeping services, payroll services, and bits and pieces. But again, I do believe that the intent of this section wasn't for a company to have their business model that I'm going to be this business and I'm going to go out and recruit a charity. I'm going to run everything and I'm going to catch you the money. So that I don't have an answer. It might be in the law. There is a section that might preclude changes in the regulation, and that might be under the employee of a temporary employment agency, which is actually in the law. It may need to come out of the law. I do know that it was not in the law in 1983. I have the rules or law from then, but it was in the year 2000. So somewhere between those years, that language was put in probably to help some of these smaller organizations. But so that's my, like I said, I don't have any exact thing that's going to help here, but I do also a couple things of being able to audit your own closed games and your daily activity. I think that that should be something, the minimal that a charity should be able to do for themselves if they want to be in the charitable gaming industry, and that they're not getting an outside service provider to do those daily tasks at least. So, so the other things I have that just came up while I was listening to the introduction and the Bill's statement, and I want to clarify the secondary winner verification. That is actually my request to have that in here. And I just want to point out to everyone that there's the word or, and I was the one that requested this because our organization would like to use the secondary winner verification number, but not have to use both. So right now it says that you have to verify the serial number. We don't want to have to check both because the secondary winner verification number actually is a better verification number. We want to just have to do that and not have the employees do both. So that is my request that's in here. I appreciate you getting it in here, and I do not want it taken out. And then I'll clarify on the dealing mistakes. In the blackjack section, 99-01.3-08-12, just for an example, if you're in that section, number 7, and there is opportunity with some of these, I think, for the dealers to play some little games. And some charities, and my charity was one of them, where we wanted to tweak that so that if the card is out of the shoe and it's exposed, it's the next card in play no matter what. So that one right there, I know that there's quite a few in Fargo charities that have changed that one to say that that card coming out of that shoe is going to be used and you can't play the game. I looked at it, it's exposed, now I'm going to burn it. Now I'm going to go to the next one. So being able to leave in the organization has an alternative written policy is helpful, because I do believe that there's some charities out there that have stronger language to make sure that dealers aren't playing any games with those cards. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me that I could answer?
No, Deb and commissioners online?
So
Thank you, Karen.
All right.
Next, we have Janelle.
Good afternoon. My name is Janelle Mitzel. Today I'm representing the Charitable Gaming Association of North Dakota, and I also am the Gaming Director for Development Homes Incorporated, charity based out of Grand Forks. I will be brief. I did hand in written comments to Mr. Hummel, but I'll give the rest of you guys my written comments too, just so you can follow along. The Charitable Gaming Association of North Dakota represents the charities. We did help Mr. Klonick draft what he put together for the Gaming Advisory Council. So we concur with all of their positions with the Advisory Council. So a lot of my comments follow along with what Mr. Klonick went through. So I do not need to go through these over and over. I wanted to highlight a couple of them for you. On my first page, we talk about in organization licenses and local permits. You talk about redefining a temporary site or to a permanent site. Just for you to be aware that there are a lot of sites that I see that are rural that depending on the season of the year, probably during harvest, some of them are only open a couple days a week during kind of those time periods. So when you redefine this, make sure that those sites are somehow covered, especially if you say quarterly, they have to be open so many days. You might take a look at that for us. I've got a couple that are only open a couple days a week when we get to the fall. We agree on the licensing, on the training clarification piece. I know we wanted that to be redefined a little bit, or defined, a little clearer as far as determination of what someone is considered capable. Getting into the permit section, obviously, we're in favor of allowing the lesser to advertise gaming at their own expense. I know this is first of all, it's in the permit section. It's also in the site authorization, or in a later section. So I'll talk about that further. I guess, when you get to lessers, organizations, and the restrictions, we did submit proposed language having to do with the bar being allowed to advertise. We've talked to several bar owners. They obviously want to be able to advertise based on the language that's written. It looks to me, or it's our interpretation of that they're not allowed to advertise at all, whether it's putting a poster in the bar saying bingo on Tuesday night, or putting a sign on the kiosk outside saying bingo on Tuesday night, jackpot of $5,000, or whatever it is. Bars are certainly going to want to be able to advertise, and maybe the compromise is it's at their own expense, not forcing the charities to advertise along with them. I know that you're trying to address the problem, and we agree that there's a problem out there. So we have submitted some proposed possible language. This was discussed during the 2023 legislative session too, kind of getting into a policy area. Senate Bill 2304, when it got to conference committee, this was extensively discussed and was not, they did not take it up about restricting bar owners and charities and their advertising at that time. In accounting rules, I guess on my page 2 of my comments regarding accounting rules, we definitely agree with Mr. Kalanick on this. We'd like to see paperwork allowed where we have digital or electronic signatures. Business nowadays, we're doing contracts, we're doing legal work, all kinds of things electronically. Every day I get a stack of paperwork this big, and it's all handwritten records. We need to move to things to being done electronically. We have a lot of problems with transposing numbers, moving numbers around, because it's all these handwritten records.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
Are you thinking all records be electronically, or are you having?
Well, we definitely like the signatures to be able to be electronically or digitally. For some of them, obviously, there's some paperwork that we're probably not going to be able to take care of everything electronically, but if we can start at least allowing for that and moving in that direction. With that, does that answer that for you, Mr. Chairman? Thank you. Along with that too, we wouldn't mind an attestation stamp to be allowed. There are charities that have waivers for that currently, so we think that should be in the rules regarding the attestation stamp, and that's because all of our deposits on daily income records have to be hand initialed, and that's ends up being hundreds, if not thousands, where some charities do have an attestation stamp that is allowed for them. So we think that should be incorporated in. And just moving into electronic pull tabs, we have a lot of charities that are asking for under the electronic pull tab section to change the custody of the keys to allow service technicians to be able to get into the belly door. That would not allow them to have access to the cash, but to get into that, because especially in the rural areas, there's problems out there, and the service technicians can get out there a lot of times quicker than charity representatives. So that is a request from many of the charities. Lastly, let's see, what else do I have? Is the like, I guess I have a couple other things here. We, Mr. Kalang did go over it under requirements of an alcohol beverage establishment, page 92. We found in there that, and this has been in there, an alcoholic beverage establishment employee may not summarize or audit an electronic pull tab game for an organization. We think that should be taken out, because when you go back into the lesser section, it does allow for bar employees to access the machines. Bar employees are allowed to work for the charity, so I don't know why we're not allowing them to do this specific function. Especially in the rural areas where we're limited on staff in those areas. Mr. Kalanick did touch on the casino chips. It is our understanding that one of the distributors were maybe possibly going to write some language to try to help with the problem with the casino chips. And it's been our experience and many of the charities' experiences. It's very hard to get casino chips. A lot of those international manufacturers are being bought out, so they only do certain runs at different times of the year or different every so many years. And so to get very specific chips. Yes.
You said a distributor might be working on language for that?
That is what I've heard, yes.
Okay.
And if they haven't, we will provide some.
Okay, just to, make that public, it will really help the Attorney General's office to understand how that should be worded. So,
Thank you. We will do that. We are assuming that they were working on it. We had heard they're working on it. That's why we did not submit, but we will make sure that happens. So that'll be very helpful. Everyone wants to be in compliance. We just have a hard time getting into compliance with that just because of the availability based on the manufacturers.
Mr. Chairman, if I can make a comment, we did receive an inquiry a while back. We've been waiting for that language. We've talked about it internally, looked at it, and as long as they are still within industry standard and you're able to visualize them easy on a video camera or from a security system, we'd be glad to take a look at that to make more things available there for you. So I would encourage, and we'll talk about kind of the process after the hearing today and how we're collecting that feedback. But I would encourage if there is some specific language in mind that would help along and help this go quicker, that would probably be helpful. So.
Thank you. We will make sure that you get something. We just felt that the distributors, manufacturers were a little bit more equipped to write the language for that, but we'll make sure that you get something on that. So thank you for that clarification. I just have a couple more for you regarding the dealing mistakes in the blackjack section. Karen Briner did touch on this, and she's absolutely right. There are what are listed for dealer mistakes and how to handle those. We think a lot of those that are listed in the regulations currently encourage fraud or encourage cheating. And Karen did give you an example, but there are other examples in there. So we would like it if you would leave the current language in there that you can write your own policies. If not, we should rewrite some of those policies. And there are some organizations that I think have very concise language for that if you want to move in that direction. And lastly, the last thing that we wanted to touch on was regarding the eligible uses. I know you were expecting this from several organizations. During the 2025 session, Senate Bill 2035 was very much discussed and debated throughout the session regarding the CVBs and the eligible use issues and the adult amateur sports. I would default to the legislature on there. We believe it's a policy issue. I think this goes away from what the legislative body has determined. We do have we understand that there are some issues with that, but we certainly, regarding the adult amateur sports, at a minimum, we think that trust dollars should be able to be used for league fees. Those are legitimate community functions, that are paid to legitimate organizations, park boards, YMCA's, those types of groups. And a lot of the charities are asking that uniforms would be included too. So if you need to, we felt that if you put some limitations, at least leave some of those things open. And that was all I had. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Janelle. Is there a sign-up sheet on your sheet there too? Thank you.
Yeah, you have the senator.
That's it?
Thank you.
Yeah. See, I did follow the order. I knew you were after Janelle. So Senator Dever, you're next. Yes. Do you have a 3-hole punch for us? Oh, there you go. That's good.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, I am Dick Dever. I am the senator from District 32, but today I am here in my capacity as commander of the AMVETS Post 9 here in Bismarck. When the legislature allowed for e-pull tabs in 2017, nobody could have predicted the explosion in gambling in North Dakota. I voted no on that bill, but the horse is out of the barn and there's no reverse. I very much appreciate the work of the gaming division and the Gaming Commission in your efforts to regulate what could otherwise become a disaster of corruption. I also appreciate Director Hummel and his predecessor, then Director McDaniel, for listening to our concerns for clarification on eligible uses. Almost all of our concerns are addressed in these proposed rules. There are 2 items that we would like you to consider for inclusion. We had asked that utilities and insurance be included as eligible uses, and there might be some confusion. I was told that those items are allowed for statewide veterans organizations. To clarify, statewide organizations do not own buildings and do not operate clubs. They serve as a means of communicating between posts and the national organizations. The local organizations serve veterans and serve their communities. They may or may not operate clubs. It might be helpful to justify paying utilities and insurance by comparing bars owned by other organizations. So a bar owned by a youth organization hosts gaming machines and benefit members who by law are not allowed to enter the building. Veterans organizations, on the other hand, are where veterans gather and activities take place. The AMVETS hosts a monthly PTSD support group, fly tying group, guitar jams for veterans. We host regular Quilts of Valor presentations. We provide a lunch and program on Veterans Day. A highlight of the AMVETS for me is always the Honor Guard, which includes 20 members who fall out often for funerals, flag raisings, civic education, and raise and lower the flags on Veterans Memorial Bridge. It seems to me that insurance and utilities are critical to the function of the building that hosts all those activities. The 2 highest expenses of the club are food and beverage expenses and payroll. Not far behind are utilities and insurance. We have struggled to make a profit, and those 2 expenses would make us viable. A strong club is vital to the strength of the organization. I'm asking for your consideration of either amending these rules to include those expenses or to rule that they be allowed. They seem to be obvious charitable purpose. Again, I appreciate your efforts in the regulation of gaming, and I particularly appreciate your support of veterans. I'm happy to respond to any questions, either in my capacity as AMVETS commander or as a senator and the prime sponsor of Senate Bill 2288, which is also addressed in the rules. And I'd like to just comment that the extensive explanation of the rules demonstrated the yeoman's work that had to be done in preparation of this. Some of my legislative colleagues have the misperception that once our bill is finalized, that's the final word. And you've demonstrated that it certainly is not. So I'd happy to be happy to respond to any questions.
I don't have any. Thank you, Senator. We were going to let you off easy. Okay, next up is Scott.
Oh, love that. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing the opportunity to participate today. My name is Scott Meskey, and I live 4 blocks from here in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I represent the North Dakota Gaming Alliance. We're the trade association for charitable gaming industry, representing all facets of the gaming industry, including veterans organizations, fraternals, charities, gaming sites, distributors, and manufacturers. We currently have about 240 members in our membership. First, I want to reiterate what Mr. Klonick and Janet, others before me, we are in total support of that. We participated in the advisory council, and we appreciate those comments being submitted for your consideration. Just 2 things. On page 1 of the sheet you have from our organization, the bottom where it states areas of concern found on page 15. As you heard in previous testimony, the highlighted area on the bottom of page 1 is proposed language. And we would suggest changing that language as per what Mr. Klonick had previously presented. We agree that lessors should have the ability to request funds, but go through the same process anyone else does in requesting the funds, including filling out the necessary forms. We also agree the language that would prevent lessors from using any strong-arm tactics to secure those funds. The charity should be making those decisions as who to receive those funds without feeling pressured to do so. And the last part is the second part. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the ticket redemption kiosk language. Page 8, section 13 of the proposed administrative rules, where it defines what a credit ticket voucher redemption kiosk is. Can we just get an acronym for that or something? A CTVRK. And no, that doesn't work either. We just want to make sure that the door is open and that the opportunity exists for multi-vendor kiosks. We know the technology is out there, and we know a bunch of states like Illinois, Nebraska, Georgia, Louisiana, Wyoming are using those. And we just want to make sure if we do a pilot study here in North Dakota, we want to make sure that you can still do that, and you would prevent it by passing the language that would prohibit multi-vendor kiosks. The language change as was presented by the Gaming Advisory Council would not change anything as to the specs for the kiosks currently being used in the states, and would not negatively impact any of the current manufacturers that would be placing these kiosks. The rest of the testimony that I handed out or you got via email is very supportive and duplicative of previous testimony from the Advisory Council. So with that, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate you not going over everything.
And I put on a tie. I don't know if you know that Mr. Klonick did not put on a tie, but I did.
See, I didn't put a tie on either, so I don't know if you're really trying to butter me up or him up. I don't know. Okay, Don from ND80.
My name's Don Santer. I represent ND80. I live in Grand Forks. Do you need my full address? Okay. I just want to get up on the record to say that I support all the things that both CGAND and the Gaming Advisory came up with. I just wanted to add a couple of minor things. On page 29, when we're talking about accounting records must be completed, initialed, and signed in permanent ink. What I wanted to add to that is in a prior life, I was responsible for electronic data capture before I came to work for ND80. I have a fairly extensive knowledge and information on electronic signatures and good documentation procedures. I have that ready to submit. It could get pretty lengthy. It may not need to be that lengthy compared to when I was dealing with the FDA, but I have it available that I could email it in. Because we would definitely like to go down that road of being able to have fillable forms and electronic signatures that would have full audit trails so that you can determine who it is that signed it through password protection. The other thing I wanted to bring up is on page 92. Just want to add one more thing on number 6, where it says an alcoholic beverage establishment employee may not summarize or audit. One of the other issues when I look at this is we have employees that we may not realize work for a bar, and this says if you work for a bar, you can't do this for an organization. So the way that I interpret that means if I have employee that I've hired to work on the gaming side and do not know they work for yet another bar, this language here actually reads like they can't do it. And I wouldn't even know, potentially. So I just wanted to point that out too, as I think that there is another section that allows employees to work for alcoholic beverage establishment under certain guidelines, and then also work for a charity, whether it's mine or a separate one. I think we should be able to incorporate that in so that we aren't limiting that. So I don't have a problem with saying that an employee that's working at the bar for the bar can summarize or audit those machines on the same day they worked, but maybe they could at another site for the organization. And I think this says they can't do it for any organization. So that's all I needed to add. Everything else I think was fairly well covered. And I did not wear a tie either.
Thanks, Don, and thanks for not wearing a tie for us non-tie wearers. Rudy from the Hospitality Association.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Gaming Commission. I also am a loyal member of the Not Wearing a Tie Today Club. Rudy Martinson here on behalf of the North Dakota Hospitality Association, which we represent the state's restaurant, lodging, and retail beverage industries in North Dakota. So we do represent the lessors where charitable gaming takes place. And just want to echo all of our industry partners that have spoken earlier. Want to throw a me too on that, frankly, and also wanted to highlight the provision that has to do with advertising. And I just wanted to point out for the commission that alcoholic beverage establishments may not advertise charitable gaming. I think of Rooter's Bar in Fargo, North Dakota, which is on Broadway. The word blackjack is in their registered logo. They also have a hand-painted sign that's hanging outside their business that advertises that they have blackjack. That sign's been hanging there for 40 years. So I don't know what has changed necessarily to render that an unacceptable practice. I agree with some of the suggestions that maybe the inclusion of language at the establishment's sole expense would be potentially an acceptable compromise there. But we get a lot of pushback from our members that why shouldn't we be able to tell people that we have gaming? I mean, and a lot of people have it in their business name. I mean, the Southgate in Grand Forks, the name of that business, unless I'm mistaken, is the Southgate Casino Bar and Grill. To change a lot of these long-term sort of business practices under which we've been operating for decades would be kind of confusing as to why that needs to change right now in this moment. Also, on that topic, subsection 8 there, the penalty section, if the lessor violates this rule, we can, the AG's office can suspend gaming up to 6 months. We had a fairly extensive conversation this last legislative session about alternatives to just a flat out suspension of gaming. There are fine provisions that were added into the law. I think we should maybe consider that if we are going to move forward with this type of thing, that maybe there's a monetary fine or something other than just flat out suspending gaming, because that hurts not only the establishment but also the charity. And I don't think it makes sense to penalize the charity that's conducting the gaming for something that the establishment did. And again, that was a whole conversation that we had during this last legislative session. But overall, I don't know, we questioned that provision regarding the advertising, given that it's been a long-standing practice for many decades, and oftentimes it's included in logos or business names or all of that. So just wanted to highlight that for the commission.
Hey, thanks, Rudy.
Thank you.
I don't have anybody else that has signed up on the sheet. Is there anybody else? I will give one last call. We can't do this. Okay, hearing no other people in person here that has any testimony or anything else to offer, I'm going to go through my script now here. Pursuant with NDCC
Mr.
28
Chairman?
dash,
There's a hand raised.
unfortunately, we can't have
PM.
that. We only can have in-person testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Pursuant with NDCC 28-32-12, the commission will have written comment period during which data, views, and arguments concerning the proposed rules or feedback regarding today's testimony will be received by the commission and made part of the rulemaking record to be considered by the commission. All comments received both today and during the written comment period will be given serious consideration by the commission. All comments and correspondence must be submitted to the Attorney General's Office Gaming Division prior to 11:59 p.m. on March 7th and will be made part of the record. Any comments received prior to today's meeting will also be made part of the record for this proceeding. Comments received after 12 a.m. on March 8th will not be included in the record. That is all I have for you guys today. I thank you for coming out on this nice, beautiful day. And some of us not wearing ties is okay. So thanks, guys, and we'll stand adjourned.